This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome into the Monday Mashup. It is May 20th, 2019. I'm your host, as always, Shea Norling. With me, Kevin McCann. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, man?
Great things. Game of Thrones is over, mercifully.
I'm excited to hear about it. You mentioned Danny died. Did anybody else die?
I don't know. I'd have to think a little bit to remember if anyone else died, but
It's too soon.
Plot holes galore.
Sure.
As a finale goes, wasn't horrible. I think it's an ending that they really could have made perfect and extremely satisfying, and it was like as well as I could have imagined the story ending. It was pretty brilliant, except for the fact that it came at the end of two extremely short seasons where they rushed everything and rushed all of the plot lines to get to this point, so that it really ends up being fucking nonsense.
Sure.
So it was like, if this had been episode 100, I think it would have been excellent and like a really perfect ending for the show. Instead, it's episode 73, and it feels like they just went way too fast getting here.
Okay.
But it's over.
Yeah. I mean,
Terrible.
all good things must come to an end.
Terrible final season. As good of a way to end it as I could have anticipated. People on Twitter are furious.
That checks out. People on Twitter are often furious.
That's pretty normal. People on Twitter are furious. I could say that any time of any day.
Twitter
and
exists for people to be furious.
It would be accurate. But there were plot holes galore in this episode. For example, John. So, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it yet, which really that's on you. Like, it's the biggest show of all time. If you didn't watch it at 9 o'clock with the rest of the world, like, I dual screened Toronto and Milwaukee.
Hell of a game.
Great game. Yeah. But I put it on a dual screen because I knew Twitter was going to be dark and full of spoilers, and I didn't want to get on there and have the show ruined for me. So I put it on both. And so, spoiler free, I don't even care. If you haven't watched it yet, you're a loser. That said, Jon kills Daenerys, which, on its own, pretty good.
Cool with it.
But it was like Dany just burns this city alive, right? Like, everybody in this city's burned and dead. And then Tyrion, immediately, she's like, you freed your brother, you committed treason. So take him. And they put him in a cell. I'm like, you just burn this whole city of innocent people.
They put Tyrion in a cell?
And I'm like, now you're taking prisoners? And so Jon meets with Tyrion because writing, and walks in, and Tyrion's like, she doesn't keep prisoners long, so we got to figure this thing out. You can stop this. You can end this. And he convinces him. He's like, she'll kill your sisters. That's basically what he said. He's like, if you don't kill her, she'll kill your sisters. And
Who are Jon's sisters again?
Sansa and Arya. And he was like, because they're like, they won't ever bend the knee. She'll kill him. And Jon's like, yeah, that's probably true. So he goes and talks to her, and she's like giving him this story and smiling all big and all happy, and they're in a ruined fucking room that she just burned and killed a bunch of people. And Jon's like, have you seen what the fuck's going on outside? Like, have you walked out there and seen the burned bodies of children that you killed?
You did that. That was you.
Have you taken a couple steps down the stairs and like checked this shit out? Because it's not great. And she's just like, look, people have to do bad things to usher in good. He's like, all right, you're always going to be my queen. He starts making out with her, and then while he's making out with her, he slips the old dagger right in her fucking stomach.
Classic.
Good move. Really good move. Yeah. So her dragon naturally is pissed. Like, I guess he has the sixth sense where it's like, oh, she's dead. Right. So he flies down. It's kind of a tender moment where he's like nosing her body and like rolling her, and realizes, oh, she's dead. Yeah. Looks Jon right in the face. Camera pans. Dragon's neck is going back, and like fire is in the back of its throat, and it's like, oh, he's gonna burn Jon alive. Doesn't fucking burn Jon alive. Nope. Just burns directly next to Jon,
because Jon's a Targ, right?
Melts, but that doesn't have anything to do with it. But he doesn't burn. Like, who gives a shit if you're a Targaryen or not? Just burn him because he just killed your mom. Like,
standard response.
It's like Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Right, I don't give a fuck if you're my dad. You crushed my Walkman and you killed my mom. Yeah. And Drogon's instead, he's like, no, I'm just going to melt the Iron Throne, and then I'm going to pick up Daenerys and fly away. And I'm like, all right, strike one. Because why the fuck would Drogon let Jon live after he just killed Dany?
Yeah, I don't get
Doesn't make any sense. So then it cuts to like weeks from now. And Grey Worm, Dany's commander of and master of war,
Sure.
is standing and he's like, Jon's our prisoner. And I'm like, wait a minute. You didn't kill this man on sight?
It would be fate on sight usually.
This doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Like, he just killed your queen and it wasn't on sight? You took a prisoner again? So then they have this whole King's Council where they debate and who's going to be the best king. They end up choosing Bran and call him Bran the Broken. All hail King Bran the Broken, which
Professor wins, man.
I was fucking howling. Just the thought of King Bran the Broken sparking fear into other nations.
So Dany had already sat on the throne, right?
She never sat. She touched it.
Okay, but she had assumed control somehow?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
like, when she died, like, it's not like King of the Hill, the person who kills the king is the king? Shouldn't Jon be the king immediately? Shouldn't they all just immediately, like, bow?
See, I don't think it's King of the Hill, because they were like, whoa, this is treason. You just killed the queen. And they're like, we're going to... Like, it should have been, like, off with your head. But instead, they threw him in a cell. And... So then all the high lords of Westeros meet and they're like, what do we do now? We don't have a king or a queen. Well, let's pick one. And Grey Worm's like, okay, go ahead, pick one. Which, weird. Like, yeah. All right, go ahead. And then he lets Tyrion, his prisoner, take over the meeting and decide who the king's going to be. And Tyrion's like, it should be Bran. And then everyone goes, yeah, I agree, it should be Bran. And then Bran goes, Tyrion, you're going to be my hand. And then Grey Worm's like, no, I don't like that. That's my prisoner. And Bran goes, yeah, but I'm the fucking king.
Weird flex, but okay.
And so then they're like, well, that's not enough. And so they decide that Sansa wants Jon to go back to the north, but Grey Worm wants Jon dead. And so instead of giving either of them what they want, they send Jon back to the Night's Watch, which makes no sense because the Night King is dead. Okay. So why do you need a Night's Watch?
I don't know.
But they send Jon to the Night's Watch, and none of it makes any fucking sense because, like I said, I'm happy with the ending, as happy as I could be, but it just doesn't really make any sense because there was no nuanced storytelling. The funniest part, too, is as Jon is being walked to the Night's Watch, he looks up at Grey Worm, and Grey Worm's on a boat, and all of the Unsullied are also getting on boats. And then Grey Worm says, all right, we're taking off. We're going to another continent. And I'm like, so why don't you just say to Grey Worm, he's going to join the Night's Watch? And then you just kind of stay on the harbor, and once you can't see the ships anymore, all right, bring him back. Yeah, it's okay. Wouldn't that make sense?
Yeah, so do you think people will watch it again? Do you think people will go back and be like, they watched the whole thing, I'm going to rewatch it over and over again, even knowing how it ends? Is it satisfactory enough to go back through and watch again, knowing how it ends? Anyways.
I will watch the first 4 seasons because I would put the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones up against any other collective run of television that has ever existed.
Even though you know that it ends in this certain way, like in your head, you're just like, I'm disregarding the ending. I'm not going to watch those seasons. I'm the same way with Entourage, not to compare them, but like I never watched season 8 of Entourage. I hate it.
No, it's like terrible. Scrubs. Yeah. You can go back and really enjoy the first 6 seasons of Scrubs and... No, it's like Game of Thrones. I will put the first 4 seasons up against any other run of television that you want. You could do it. You could do the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones and put them up against Breaking Freaking Bad, and it's an even fight. Quick
aside: did you know that Dr. Cox's wife is married to the creator of Scrubs?
Oh wow,
yeah, wild one.
Oh, pretty good. Yeah. I think I did know that.
Yeah, they have a daughter. She's a singer.
Yeah, because that's why she was in the show. Yeah, I did know that. Yeah. Yeah, but I would put that up against it. So I think people will go back and watch that because the writing's excellent, the acting's excellent, the plot twists are excellent. Season 5 is very average. There are episodes from Season 6 I would go back and watch. I don't know that I'll ever watch Season 8 again, and I doubt that I'll ever watch Season 7 again. I know that I'm very hopeful that when the books come out, they get to this same ending, but it's more satisfying because it'll take its time and actually appropriately build up all of the plot lines. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there are certain parts of the ending that will change. One I very much hope is completely different. There's one aspect that I very much hope is completely different. This show is incredibly unfair to Jaime as a character, but...
Yeah. He's the brother... /father of Joffrey. Okay, yeah. I was making sure.
Very unfair to him. And I would love to see the character treated better in the books.
I think it's super rare for a show that runs that long to end and like please people. Like the only one that I can think of that people were like universally okay with the way it ended or happy about it is Friends.
Breaking Bad.
Okay, that one too. I didn't watch Breaking Bad, but everybody seemed to be cool with that one too. But like Friends, everybody was like, yes, Ross and Rachel got together at the end. It's perfect. Everything's fine.
There's a lot in hindsight too. Like Friends was a good one in the moment, but Friends, I think people have gone back and realized
it's just white people in New York doing stuff.
Yeah, it was like this
it's
cultural...
the same thing as Seinfeld, but at a coffee shop instead of a diner.
Right, it was this cultural phenomenon that at least Seinfeld was like subversive.
Well, they offered Jerry Seinfeld like $100 million to do one more season and he turned it down. Seinfeld was huge.
And
Seinfeld was massive.
It was subversive and it was clever funny. It wasn't just like you can sort of relate to this in a very basic level.
Right.
Like Friends was. I think people have looked back on Friends and gone, really, that's mediocre television, but it was fun.
It's cheap laughs.
Yes.
Who doesn't love cheap laughs, right?
Friends is one of the shows, Friends and How I Met Your Mother and shows like that I will default to when I turn on Netflix, not because they're particularly great.
Cheers.
But because, yes, they're very easy, they're very accessible. I can put any episode on and I can fall asleep to it. I can watch it. I can enjoy it. Whatever it is, it's background noise and it's perfect.
My friends think I'm so weird for watching Cheers on Netflix. I do it all the time.
It's a little odd. I don't watch Cheers on Netflix. Seinfeld, I thought, in hindsight, I think has a great ending because people have now realized that the ending of Seinfeld was literally just, you guys are all horrible people for watching and enjoying this show. Fuck you.
Pretty much.
It was a great ending.
Yeah, phenomenal.
And in the moment, people were like, that stank. But in hindsight, people are like, wow, that was actually really, really good. Fun fact, on my Twitter timeline right now, seasons 1 through 4 of Game of Thrones are elite television that shouldn't be forgotten.
I have no frame of reference.
So there we go.
Yeah.
That's if you do anything, watch 1 through 4 and then stop.
I did like stay with HBO shows for a second. I will not watch season 3 of The Newsroom like ever. It's terrible.
Seasons 1 and 2 weren't great, but they were good. They were good.
Season 1 was great.
Season 1 was really good. It was well acted and it was well written.
Phenomenally written.
What are the other ones I was thinking? Breaking Bad was perfect. Like I haven't seen anyone and that is insane because that show got nearly as big as Game of Thrones got, if not as big as Game of Thrones got.
I didn't love the ending to How I Met Your Mother.
I hated it.
Yeah, I
hated
don't
it.
think I've watched the last season. Like the whole last season, they're at the bed and breakfast. They're getting married or whatever, and then like all of a sudden, oh, this isn't the mother, and then this is the mother, and then in the end, she dies, and now he's with Robin the whole time. Like this was dumb.
No, I thought the ending of and it was like How I Met Your Mother. It was unnecessarily sad.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad just tied up every loose end in a perfect way. It was true to every character. It made sure it collected everything, and the final season. See, that's where I can't put Game of Thrones up against it because I still think the final half of season 5 is the best 8-episode run I've ever seen on television. And the final half of the final season of Breaking Bad.
Okay.
The Wire had a really good ending.
Wire did have a great ending.
I think people hate the Sopranos ending, but
I despise the Sopranos ending.
I actually love it. I think it's so smart.
I was one of the people that was furious. And I didn't watch all of the Sopranos while it was going on. I'd catch an episode here and then and I was kind of, but when I went back and ended up binging it on HBO Go in college, I got so mad because I had put in like months of catching up and finishing the whole series, wrapping it up, and in the end, and I was just like, you got to be kidding me, dude.
I was reading something recently too where they were like, the biggest question about the finale was, did David Chase like the song Don't Stop Believin'? Did he put it in there because he hates the song Don't Stop Believin'? What's the deal with Don't Stop Believin'?
The fact that it could possibly fade to black and Journey would play for The Sopranos. Like,
I didn't like it the first time I saw it. In hindsight,
I haven't gone back and watched it.
I've only
watched it once.
The second time I saw it, I loved it. I adored it.
Maybe I'll go.
I thought it was amazing.
Watched it once.
And people are like, well, what do you think? Did Tony die? Like, this is why it's such a great ending to me. People won't stop talking about it. And it's not necessarily in a bad way.
Awful it is.
No, because Game of Thrones, they're only talking about how bad it is.
Makes sense.
Because like they put it in front of your face and they told you how it ended, and it still wasn't great. At least with The Sopranos, you can be like, did Tony die? Did Tony get up and start shooting? Like, it allows you to have a discussion about what you think happens, which I think is fun. It's a little smart.
I think he probably died.
I think he died too. I think because just the door opens, then I think he's dead.
Yeah.
But I think it's fun to discuss that and like, well, no, what if
I still would have liked to seen him just one more final one line to say, and then it fades to black and you hear a gunshot, like something closure. Just give me closure.
If he had stood up and pulled out a pistol, and then it cuts to black.
Yeah, Because then either that's still like, let me hear the gunshot. Like, let me hear the gunshot. If I have to wonder whether or not it missed, like, whatever. But, like, just let me know.
The other show that I thought ended just incredibly was Mad Men.
I didn't watch that one either.
Man, you got to catch up on some television.
I watched the last episode of Breaking Bad with my roommates in college when it aired, but I never, like, caught up on the show.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Basically.
The last episode of Mad Men, the last season wasn't spectacular. It wasn't anywhere near as bad as Game of Thrones. It just wasn't as great as previous seasons. But the final episode, I just thought it wrapped up the character really well. Like, there are very good television endings. The Wire, 30 Rock.
I can't even remember how The Wire ended now. I haven't seen The Wire in
The Wire was
years.
just, The Wire was always just the cycle. Like, a crackhead dies,
Yeah.
there's always going to be another crackhead. Like, that was just the ending of The Wire, knowing no matter what you do, it's kind of in futility.
Right.
Should we talk about basketball?
Probably.
Should we talk about college basketball before we do that? Not necessarily college basketball, but college
basketball players. Just
but college sports in general.
Let's
because
talk about the old NCAA.
The good old NCAA is looking at compensation for names and likenesses, which is happening about, say, 100 years too late, I would venture.
I don't understand how there's anything in the world where a person can't own their own name. Like, it should never happen. You should always be allowed to profit off your own name and likeness. This is America.
The NCAA was founded in 1910. It is now 2019. This is a 109-year-old organization
seriously.
that is just now discovering that maybe these people should be allowed to go sign autographs and put names on the back of their jerseys and hire agents. And
you have
why not?
Like, you have uniform deals with companies. I get that, and maybe in football that'll stay the same, and they'll keep like always wearing Nike cleats at Michigan State and Jordan cleats at Michigan, whatever. But the basketball players should be allowed to sign their own shoe deals because the coaches are allowed to sign their own shoe deals. So, like, I don't understand at all. Like, we talked Dabo Sweeney. Did you retweet that thing?
Yeah, that Dabo Sweeney quote was bad.
It's like, dude,
it's
$90 million they're giving you.
Yeah, 2 months after signing a $90 million contract extension, and he's like, well, if they decide to make it a professional sport, I guess I'll just go to the NFL. Like,
just go now.
Yeah, what are you doing, dude? Like, you're not going to, he might not make $90 million in the NFL, but.
No, you won't get a 10-year deal in the NFL, ever.
Well, could go to Oakland.
I apologize. I forgot, and then it immediately came into my head. Never mind. You can get a 10-year, $100 million deal in the NFL. You just have to work for Mark Davis.
You also have to beat John Gruden. Yeah. It helps to work for ESPN for a few years. God. Have this high-profile comeback.
I totally forgot about that one. The second it came out of my mouth, and I was like, nope, wait, yes, you can.
Like, I've never understood it, and I've heard so many defenses against, like, why can't we let players make money off their likenesses? The weirdest one I ever heard, and I can't remember who said it, but somebody goes, it'll get really uncomfortable in the locker room when you have one, like, let's just use Clemson. When Trevor Lawrence is making $5 million a year off of endorsements, and the offensive tackle is only bringing home $15,000.
Like,
it'll be, whoa, he's making $5 million to play the same sport at the same school, and I'm only making 15. Like, no,
and if he's a good quarterback, he pays for his lineman's food anyways.
Right. Like, that's the thing people forget is when you win championships and when you play well, everybody eats. Yeah, so who fucking cares?
And on top of that, dude, like, I think Trevor Lawrence is probably the first overall pick in the draft if he could have gone this year. Like,
absolutely.
I know Kyler Murray's this whole, like, there's a real possibility that if he's not one, he's two.
This is the same thing we say with Zion, but in football. Like, there's no reason that Trevor Lawrence should go back to play college football next year. There's no reason.
Ever. Like, because you can get hurt and lose value for, like, a big lineman fall on his shoulder. All of a sudden, he's got a broken clavicle. He can't throw for a year. Like, why can't he go play?
Now,
why can't he? How did Maurice Claret lose that case?
Yeah, there are really interesting thoughts, but he would be the number one pick to me, and
no doubt.
Like Arizona, now we know they were willing to move on from Josh Rosen. They would have taken Trevor Lawrence a fucking heartbeat.
Sure, and
it wouldn't have even been close. That kid's got a howitzer on his arm. Why can't Tua just leave?
Seriously,
like. We know where Tua is going to get picked.
And is he not ready? Honestly, is he physically, like, that's the whole thing about football, right? Is you have to stay 3 years because it's so physical. You cannot be ready.
That
Le'Veon Bell wasn't ready to be an NFL running back after 1 year. He was 6'2", 240.
No, actually, Le'Veon Bell's an interesting one. It's a great example because they made him beef up for his senior year, and then when he got to the NFL, they were like, "We have to completely change your body style." Yeah. So it's like they keep.
He left after 3. Yeah,
they're like, "Well, you aren't physically ready," and it's like, "Well, actually, your strength and conditioning coaches screwed this fucking guy up for his NFL career, and now NFL teams are like, well, we need to bring your body down. We need to alter your body type. Your diet has to change. All sorts of different things." And I'm like, sometimes these college strength and conditioning coaches know what's best for a college athlete, but they don't know what's best for a pro athlete. And
I mean, in fairness, it's their job. I'm only saying this because one of my best friends is a strength and conditioning coach at Ohio State, so I have to be nice about this. But
right, and I'm not trying to throw them all under the bus. Those guys at Michigan State and what they did to Le'Veon Bell was not great.
Yeah, I mean, again, he was mentored by that guy, so like, I don't know what these.
We've opened a can of worms.
But either way, like. The NFL game is different than the college game, no doubt about it. Like
there's speed.
Yeah, it's way different. Like everybody's faster, everybody's smarter. You can't just run over. Like Jerome Bettis doesn't exist anymore.
Sure.
So you kind of have to make athletes, not bodybuilders.
I think maybe like the 3-year physicality stuff might apply for linemen.
Even then, there's a couple.
But like for wide receivers and quarterbacks, like you can't touch them anyway. What are we doing? Yeah, if they're good, they're good.
I don't know.
Trevor Lawrence doesn't need to play college football. Not anymore.
No. There's no point in it to him. He already won a national championship.
And it's
like, there's no like you want the Heisman? Like, okay, I guess. You'll probably get it. Like
the funniest thing is how people always are like, well, there's no competitiveness in the NBA. There's no parity in the NBA. And I'm like, look at college football. There's no you have Alabama and Clemson are playing an entirely different sport.
Imagine if college football had a salary cap. Like you can only spend this much on your recruiting. You can only spend this. You can only travel this much on a private jet with your coach this many miles. You can only do this. You can only like Nick Saban has unlimited resources. Clemson has unlimited resources. Like if everybody was on an even playing field, it doesn't matter who gets the best players. Like you can only get so many of them.
Yeah.
So college football like operates like baseball. There's no salary cap. The richest teams, the richest programs, the schools who spend the most money are the schools that are going to win.
College sports operate like that in general. That's like Michigan State and Michigan both got painted in this FBI thing, and they were like, John Beilein refuses to break rules. The only reason Tom Izzo was mentioned in the FBI report was because they said Tom Izzo refuses to break rules. Players came to him and players' families came to him asking for money, and he said no. Yeah. That's the only reason he was mentioned.
Brian Bowen said like 5 times how bad he wanted to go to Michigan State, but they wouldn't pay him, and Louisville would pay him. And I don't fault the kid. Like if you're in that
go make your money.
Like you need the money, then take the money from Adidas.
But that's why Michigan State beating Duke was such a miracle, and that's why Michigan State, like people look at Tom Izzo and they go, wow, this guy is such an overrated all-time coach because he can't win championships. Actually, he might be underrated because he's been able to make 8 Final Fours in a culture where people are paying players to come to their schools, and he has openly refused to do it.
And think about how frustrating it's got to be for him to play Duke. Losing out on Jabari to Duke. Losing out on Vernon Carey to Duke. Like, guys that he knows is like, I didn't get this guy because I wouldn't pay him, and Mike will.
Zion. Losing out on Zion to Duke.
All these guys who Izzo is right. He's always in those last 3 or 4. They all want to go to him, and they're just holding out, hoping he'll give him a check, and he won't do it. And he's got to play him every year down in Durham or wherever the hell he's got to play Duke.
Well, and it's tough because they're like, I want to go to that culture, but do you want to live in East Lansing and deal with Michigan winners and also not get paid when you could go to Durham?
I was in East Lansing too. It's not that bad.
It's really not, but it's just like the optics of it. You could go to Durham and be close to the beach, or you could go. But it's close to Michigan State.
Sure,
but you could go to Durham and live in Carolina and have wonderful weather all year, or you could go
Duke's
to
campus is
beautiful.
Pristine.
It's beautiful.
I went down there. My brother went to a basketball camp there. I think I was in high school, and I was just like, whoa, I wish I was super smart. I could go here, but that's not going to happen.
This is why Sports Illustrated said John Beilein went to the Cavs. They said he refused to cheat. He was tired of other teams cheating, and he just wanted to go be a teacher again instead of deal with the one-and-done culture and the new...
I can't wait to talk about John Beilein.
And changing landscape of college basketball.
That's I don't want to knock it, but that's a wild hire to me.
As a hire, I don't hate... Like, for the Cavs, I don't hate it.
Oh, I don't get it, though.
For Beilein, I don't necessarily... I get it, but I don't get it.
Either side, I don't get it. Like, I know Beilein has always wanted to jump to the NBA to see if his system works in the NBA. I get that aspect. I'm sure when we find out how much money Dan Gilbert paid him, we don't know yet, but it's a 5-year deal. My guess is it's somewhere near $35 to $40 million.
He was making 2.5, I think,
My
at
guess
Michigan.
is somewhere between 7 and 8. Like, I bet he's one of the highest paid coaches in the NBA. I bet Gilbert had to do that to get him out of there.
It wouldn't shock me.
No. And the thing about Beeline,
Especially because, what is he, 66?
66. That's the point I'm going to make. It's like, it's really weird to hire a guy who is not going to be able to relate to any of these young. He's a 66-year-old college coach. You're dealing with a roster largely of one and dones. Like, and Kevin Love.
Listen, like, I don't know that Colin Sexton's going to respond real well to John Beilein
I don't know
teaching
that they're
him systems.
like. That's the other thing with Beeline too is like I'm surprised he didn't wait until after the lottery to take an NBA job. Like,
What's he got, the 5th pick?
the 5th pick, and like
It could be worse.
it could be worse. But really, the only really like the players that have any type of all-star potential at 5 are point guards, and you've already got one. Like, so are you going to move
Does Colin
Sexton?
Sexton really have all-star potential?
No. I'm saying he doesn't. I'm saying the ones in the draft at 5. The only players you're going to get in the draft this year at 5 who have all-star potential are point guards.
Right. Okay.
And you have Colin Sexton. So now does that mean like you're attaching Colin Sexton to Kevin Love to move that contract? What are you doing with Colin Sexton? Because is Colin Sexton a Beeline player? Beeline ran the 1-3-1 like every year, right? Like I didn't miss that. I know I stopped watching college basketball.
I think
he doesn't coach
defensively,
defense.
he's just going to go with the NBA style of running.
They
man
hired
defense.
JB Bickerstaff. That's a really good hire for him.
And I think that JB Bickerstaff is mostly going to be like, we're just going to play man defense because this is the
JB
NBA.
Bickerstaff should still be a head coach right now. Memphis is God only knows what's going on.
Bickerstaff's like, it's just going to straight up be, look, we're not the Miami Heat. We're not going to try to run zone. We're just going to run man because we're playing in the National Basketball Association. And Beeline, I think his system has a really good shot of transferring over
I just
because
think
it's
it's a weird
so
fit
pick and roll heavy.
personnel-wise for that system, though.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's maybe why he has 5 years. I think there's like...
You got to get the players in. Though, I mean, how many more years does Kobe Altman have? Because Dan Gilbert, it's noted, has never once extended a GM. Not once. In all of his years owning the Cleveland Cavaliers, he's never once given a general manager a contract extension. Not even David Griffin.
Shit, how long is Dan Gilbert the owner? Is the other question.
I guess 5 years. Like...
if he really is interested in buying the Pistons, how long is he going to be the owner?
Does Gores want to sell the Pistons? Like, that's totally up in the air. I have no idea. I'm guessing Dan Gilbert's the owner for the foreseeable future. I'd operate under that assumption.
My other thing, like with getting Beeline is, and I still operate under the assumption that LeBron in some capacity will return to the organization, whether it is as an owner or a player or both for 1 year. The Sergei Fedorov in Russia deal.
I don't know if you can do that, because didn't Jordan have to sell the Wizards when he wanted to play? I don't think
Did
you
he?
can own and play. I think he had to give up his stake if he wanted to play.
I don't remember that. I don't know that there's precedent for it, but I think you could do player owner.
I'm
Like,
not
what are they
sure.
going to, if LeBron James buys 100% share, because I don't think
I don't
Jordan.
know if LeBron James, like, I know he's got a lot of money, but a 100% stake at the Cleveland Cavaliers is going to run you $2 billion, and that's about all he's got. Which is not nothing. Like, props to you, you have $2 billion.
Franchise is worth $1.2 billion.
NBA owners are a different level of billionaire, unless you're Gail Benson.
Oof, boy, oh boy, oh boy. As of November 21st, 2018, LeBron James' net worth was estimated at $450 million.
No, he's got a $1 billion deal with Nike, though.
Right. Yeah. So, the Cavs are worth $1.2 billion.
Yeah.
So, to be a 100% owner is impossible. But, like, with Jordan, he was like, what, 51% on the Wizards? Was
I'm not
he
sure what
even
he
that
was with the
high?
Wizards.
Was he
I don't remember.
minority?
I can't remember what he was.
Because it could have also been a situation where the other groups that owned the team were like, look, you can't have a stake and play. Like, if LeBron buys a majority of the Cavs, even if he doesn't, like, the owners are never going to go, yeah, you can't also play.
I don't know if
what are
it's
they
the
going to
owners. I
tell
think it's
LeBron
like-
James that he can't play for the Cavs?
Well, they told Michael Jordan he couldn't play for the Wizards unless he wanted to sell the team.
But it's not like would the Bulls tell Michael Jordan he couldn't own
be a
and
tough
play for the Bulls? It's different when it's the Wizards.
I wish Reinsdorf would sell the damn Bulls. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different. But I don't know. Like, playing and owning, at that point, he's already a movie star. Like, if you're going to own a team, you got other shit to do. Like, be done. Just be done. Like, I feel like he's done in L.A. I feel like L.A., he's not going to go anywhere. Unless
sucks.
it's like, maybe Bronny gets drafted in Miami, and he's like, hey, Pat, let me run it for 1 year.
This LeBron tangent isn't one that I expected to go on, but I'm kind of enjoying it. The issue with it for me, like, I don't want him to retire there because it's the first jersey that I've seen him in that he doesn't look like a natural in. When he put the Cavs jersey on, he always just looked like he was supposed to be a Cleveland Cavalier. Then he put the Heat jersey on, and it was like, you're a villain now, but you look fucking good in the Heat jersey. Then he went back to the Cavs, and it was like these Cavs uniform, the ones with sleeves. He won a championship in sleeves.
The sleeves off. Like, oh, dude.
He won a championship in sleeves, but for some reason it looked good. And now
it's like a 4-year period the NBA decided to wear fucking t-shirts.
Yeah, it was weird.
What the hell was that?
It was weird. But then he puts the Lakers uniform on, and he's walking around with shorts that say Lakers across the crotch.
Yeah,
and he's got the wine and gold.
I want those Pistons. Those shorts are like $200.
Yeah, they're a lot of money.
Wild.
But he looks weird in a Lakers uniform to me. It's the one because it's like, that's Kobe's uniform. That's Magic's
yellow is
uniform.
A secondary color, as we learned during the tournament.
True. That is true. I forgot. Fuck those commercials. All right. NBA draft lottery and general free agent speculation, of which there is endless.
My dad asked me today, so when basketball's over, are you guys going to talk about other stuff? And I was like, basketball doesn't end, Dad.
This league, there is no offseason.
No, free agency is far more intriguing than a 3-0 series lead in the West Final.
It sure is. And let me tell you, even the 2-1 series lead in the East Finals feels like it might. I don't know if Toronto can win this series. Let's just get this out of the way.
I picked Toronto, so I'm not jumping. Like, you texted me, I wanted to jump off after 2-0. I thought they were done, but I'm like, I can't jump off them yet. If it's 3-0, I can jump off them. If it's 2-0, there's still a chance. All you got to do is go home and win 2, and then it's a whole new series.
The Western Conference Finals stink, which is sad, because I thought Portland was
separated rib too, and now it's just like, well, this sucks.
And I thought Portland was a good matchup. I was very wrong. Portland is not a good matchup.
Dennis Kanter is awful on defense.
Steve Kerr starting Damian Jones was the most disrespectful thing I've ever seen towards Enes Kanter in my life.
Terry Stotts starting Myers Leonard. It's pretty disrespectful toward Dennis Kanter too. It's just like,
it's not great.
You can't play against Andrew Bogut.
It's not great.
Draymond's
and it's
eating you alive on these rim runs.
I don't know. Like, the other thing is, I don't know that Denver would have been any better.
I can't remember who was saying, somebody on ESPN was saying, like, Denver would have been a better matchup. And I'm like, who the hell cares? They couldn't beat Portland. You think they're going to beat Golden State?
This is a Portland team with Dame, who has separated ribs, and, like, do we really think Denver was going to do any better? No.
They couldn't beat Portland.
They have no front court.
Right.
And that's the one thing I want to say about this is what I told you before the show, where Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson were talking about how it's a lack of will from Portland, how they just don't care. I'm so tired of hearing that take.
I don't think you get to the Western Conference Finals if you don't care.
I don't think Portland gets to the 3 seed if they don't care. No. Like, they've lost Nurkic
2 years in a row. Like, I mean, it's just,
their entire season has been built on being resilient and scrappy, and now all of a sudden people are like, oh, they just look like they don't care.
And it's like I said to you before we did this, like, it's demoralizing the way that Golden State beats you too. Like, think of these 3 losses. Game 1, they just come out and get killed, and they're dead. You know, they played at altitude 48 hours, 36 hours before that. They were done. They were toast. They had nothing in Game 1. Game 2, they're right there. They've got a lead, and then the third quarter just demoralizes you. And then what happens in Game 3? The exact same thing. Except at home. It's even worse because it's at home.
Much worse.
And they don't have Iguodala for most of the second half, and they still do it to you.
And Draymond Green hangs a triple-double on your head.
Draymond Green just basically has you on a string saying, dance for me all night.
Essentially, this series isn't interesting at all. The other series wasn't interesting through 2 games at all. And
I thought Game 1 was very interesting.
It was the best punch I thought the Raptors had, and it wasn't enough. And then tonight was like I don't know if it was a better punch, but they just would not lose.
I think Game 1 was the best punch Kyle Lowry had. It was definitely not the best punch the Raptors had. The rest of them were pretty awful. Marc Gasol was laughable.
Marc Gasol was really bad tonight, too.
He was okay tonight. He made some threes. He didn't do a whole lot for them defensively, but he hit timely shots.
There was a stretch where he was not good.
And you know what? Maybe I'm doing that thing like we did with Kyle Lowry in the first round, where after Game 1 he was so bad that Game 2 was mediocre, and everybody was like he was okay. Maybe that's what I'm doing with Marc Gasol right now. But He gave them enough tonight. When Norm Powell comes off the bench and does that, and
fair.
What was Danny Green and Fred VanVleet were a combined 2 for 20?
Yeah, it's not ideal.
They were terrible.
But
Danny Green's been awful.
When you need a performance out of Kawhi that you got tonight,
who was clearly hobbled all game.
Right. when you need that out of him, and when you need what Siakam gave you just to win in double overtime at home,
And they had to do it defensively. They couldn't get it done offensively. They had to lock in.
I think the series is over. I don't see a way that this team wins 3 of the next 4 games.
Like I said, did you think they could win 4 or 5 before tonight? If you look at it 3 to 4, it's so tough. Like if you look at it they need 3 out of 4. It's tough. But when playoff series are played one game at a time, and you win the next one, and now all of a sudden both teams have to win 2 out of 3.
Sure. That's the way I looked at when I was very hopeful for the Celtics. Right, exactly. I was like, if they just win one more.
You just got to win one more. Like it's the same way. Like if they win tonight told me nothing because Giannis was awful. A lot of Danny Green and Van Vliet were both terrible. Kawhi was hobbled. He didn't shoot it well. So tonight really told me nothing. If they come back out again and they win game 4 and it doesn't take them 3 overtimes and Kyle Lowry doesn't foul out with 6 minutes left and Giannis doesn't foul out and they win a legitimate game, then I'm starting to think, okay, we have a series even though the home team has won every game.
Their offense has been so bad.
It's been up and down. It's been.
I don't know if it's been up and down. It's been down.
Well, it was up in a couple of those games in the Philly series, and then it was down.
Kyle Lowry was up in game 1, but other than that, it's been a lot of Kawhi and Siakam. And it's funny because going into the playoffs, I was like, the Bucks look like a whole lot of Giannis, and it turns out that they're a whole lot of everyone else too.
Eric Bledsoe was horrendous tonight.
And
also,
Toronto, who I was like, this is a complete team, top to bottom, just isn't.
The rotations are messed up for Toronto, and I don't know why they won't go back to the 2 bigs that they did against Philly. Like that lineup helped them kill Philly in the end. Like eventually delivered the death blow was that whole fourth quarter of Game 7, Gasol and Siakam and Ibaka. All 3 of them together with Kawhi and Kyle Lowry. And you take Danny Green out because Danny Green can't shoot.
I'm starting to think that they really, and nobody's heard this name in a long time, but I'm really thinking they're starting to miss OG Anunoby. Like, I don't think they thought it would take him this long to get back.
No, I mean, appendicitis, I don't know exactly what the protocol is for that, but I didn't think it would take this long either.
There's no way the Raptors thought it would take this long. No, I think they originally said first or second round, and now here we are, Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals. And maybe he's just out of shape
and you can't bring him back. Maybe he's fine, but But, I mean, hey, they could have used him.
Or maybe he's just not confident, but they really could have used him tonight. And they could really use him in a couple nights for Game 4.
He'd help defend Giannis. Not that Giannis killed him tonight, but he does kill him on the glass. They got killed on the glass over and over again. Siakam missed those 2 free throws, and they couldn't box out on another free throw. That's why the game was going into overtime and double overtime right there. They should have been able to handle that. Siakam just makes free throws. It's over in regulation.
I'm just ready for Bucks-Warriors finals. I think it's actually going to be really fun.
It could be, again, like I don't want to say this out loud because I feel like I'm vastly disrespecting the Bucks, but the Warriors are so damn good that if Durant comes back, that one could be quick.
I feel like even with Durant, it's a 7-game series.
It could be.
I might be vastly overrating the Bucks,
it's the way where the Warriors, like, if they decide they're the Warriors that day, and if they the thing Zach Lowe said this about them, it's not that they realized how good they are without Durant. It's they realize they have to be the best version of themselves when they don't have Durant. So they cut harder. They screen harder. The passes are crisper. Everything is better because they know there's no room for error. When they have that room for error, Durant can still score 50, and the rest of them are just like, yeah, fuck it, Durant will score 50.
The other thing with I keep hearing a lot about vintage Warriors.
I don't think this is vintage Warriors.
It's not. If KD doesn't come back, here's the problem for me. You don't have 29-year-old Andre Iguodala and David West.
Not have Andre Iguodala at all. We haven't heard anything about the MRI.
And that's where you don't have 29-year-old Iguodala and David West walking out of that tunnel. You don't have David Lee walking out of that tunnel. You don't have Prime Bogut walking out of that tunnel.
Harrison Barnes.
No, you don't have any of the guys that were vintage Warriors. No. You just have the big 3 and no depth.
And you need Draymond to play like that for 7 games. Or 4.
It could happen, but it probably won't. Yeah,
but you'd hope you get more out of Clay than what you got last night too.
If they don't get KD back, I'm leaning Bucks in 6.
I can't do it.
6 is tough because they'd have to win on the road. The fact that the Bucks will have
win
home
games
court
on the road. I don't want it to sound like I'm disrespecting the Bucks because I think what they've done this year. You look at the margin.
Can you imagine if the last game in Oracle is a finals loss?
Oddly poetic, but it's. I still just dude. I know there's nobody that can guard Giannis, but there's nobody that can guard Steph, and Steph's shots are worth more. And there's nobody that can guard Klay. And I know Middleton's great, but he can't chase him around and be effective on offense, and Klay can. And, like, there's just so many things about what the Warriors do and having, like, I saw that in the third quarter of these last two games where it's just like, okay, they've been here before. They're like, there's no panic whatsoever. There's nothing. And if they give a blitz to the Bucks in the third quarter, and the Bucks are going to have home court. If they get a blitz in game one in the third quarter, that will be the moment where it's like, can they respond? Can they handle the blow, and can they come back? Because the Warriors will keep coming.
I'll tell you my fear for the Warriors against the Bucks is when you're playing the Bucks, you won the depth. You can't win the non-Giannis minutes.
No.
So you need your big three to really go 44, 45 45 Even if you have KD.
You have to have a big three for Milwaukee, too. Like, Bledsoe has to play well or they have no chance.
Right, but the whole thing I'm going at is there's nowhere to hide Curry on defense.
No, Bledsoe. Like, that's the only one. All he's going to do is straight line drive. You'll live with Eric Bledsoe shooting threes all game long.
But is it really hiding him? Like, Curry would have to work to guard Bledsoe more than he would to guard, say, Harkless.
Yeah, well, no doubt. No doubt about that. But at the same time, they're not going to hunt Curry. Like, with if you put him on Bledsoe, they're not just going to give the ball to Eric Bledsoe and say, go hunt. They're still going to try to get it to the other guys, and Bledsoe's still going to be that third or fourth guy.
I think their spacing is really good. Somebody said something about how their spacing's not good, or how Giannis isn't that much better than Ben Simmons because he can't shoot. And I was like, the difference, it doesn't matter that Giannis can't shoot.
He can't.
He
will shoot.
Right, but the other thing for me is, like, it's not that he can't shoot, because even if he's not shooting, he can still score from anywhere on the floor.
And also, Giannis had 23 rebounds tonight. How many times has Ben Simmons done that ever, let alone in a playoff game?
And that's what I'm like, Giannis on like Ben Simmons on the 3-point line, you don't have to worry about at all. No. Giannis on the 3-point line can take one step and dunk.
And he will shoot. Like, and he made them, what did he shoot in that Boston series? He must have shot 35%.
He went 3 of 4 in more than one game.
He at least 35% from deep in that series.
It might have been better than that. I want to look it up, and I will try to find it.
Like, you don't have to jump. You don't have to bite on the pump fake ever with Giannis, but you have to close out. You don't have to run at him and go flying, but you got to close out. Stay on the ground, but close out every time, because he will shoot. He's not Ben Simmons. He will try to hit threes. If he catches a rhythm, he's pretty damn good at it.
He is pretty good at it. And I think, he's obviously a better player than Ben Simmons, but it's just funny when people are like, well, he can't shoot, so he's not that effective. And I'm like, this is not how this works. He can score from anywhere.
And what he gives you rim protection wise is outstanding too. And also, like, he's going to guard Durant one-on-one more than likely. Like, he's going to try to guard Durant one-on-one at the very least. Like, I think Kevin Durant's unguardable even by Giannis' standpoint. Well, but if anybody can do it, it's a guy with a 7'6" wingspan.
I would agree. But, yeah, Kevin Durant's unguardable. Yeah. And that's about all we need to say about Kevin Durant. Which is one of my hotter...
who I am, right? Like,
one of my hotter takes is that I actually... I enjoy the Warriors without Kevin Durant, but I think I enjoy the Warriors more with him because I just love watching Kevin Durant.
I think they're better with him, but I definitely enjoy them more without. They're a lot of fun when they go running around like that.
They really are fun. Like, and when Draymond is playing like that, they're fun. And Draymond will never play like that. Draymond made me realize why he can't wait for Kevin Durant to not be a Warrior.
He said it in the press conference. He said, I'm the one who says, yeah, screw it, I'll give up. Like, somebody has to take it upon themselves to give something up. I'll be the one to give it up when we have Kevin. When we don't have Kevin, I get to have fun.
Right.
Like, he said that.
And he can't wait for Kevin to not be around. He had a hell of a
press conference last night.
Dude, he had a hell of everything. Yeah. His leadership, being on the sounds of the game, whatever it is.
And that was, it was awesome. He talked about how he's trying to be a better father. He's not arguing with the refs. Like, he had a good long press conference.
I liked how he said, I used to cry and not play, and it must have been disgusting to watch.
But he finished the quote, because I was disgusted by it.
Right.
Like, he said he was watching his kid play on the Little Tykes hoop. He jumped up and dunked and then fell down and started pretending to yell at refs. Because that's what Draymond does every time he makes a layup. Hey. He turns around and screams and one.
Turns out you're a role model.
Yeah, there you go. Your kid's impressionable. Welcome to fatherhood.
Giannis shot 41.2% from 3 against the Celtics.
There you go. So probably 50, 40, 90 in that series. Well, maybe not 90. Who cares about the 90?
Probably not 90. Yeah. I think it was like 70.
Yeah, who cares about the 90?
Who gives a shit? He had 22 free throws, 18 in the series. He had 10, 18, 22, 10, and 5. Pretty good.
Not awful.
All right, so the lottery killed tanking. tanking, much like democracy, dies behind closed doors.
There's a sidebar of like it killed tanking, but it also might have screwed with trade values and the way people just throw first round picks into deals. Because all of a sudden, like, you're Washington and you think you're getting the 14th pick and you get 9. Or you're LA and you think you're getting 11 and you get 4. So all the protections on every first round pick that ever gets traded from now on is going to be like, no, top 4. It's always top 4 protected because anybody can fly up into that top 4 now. So that's like the side. Like, yes, it may have severely hindered tanking, but it also has an adverse effect on the trade market.
Yep. And I think the Celtics are almost in an even better position having that top 6 protected Memphis pick because now, like, it becomes unprotected a year later. Mm-hmm. And now people will look at that and go, even if Memphis finishes as the 14th team, they could fly up into that top 6 fairly easily.
They got to move it now, though. Like, that pick's not going to be more valuable than it is before this draft.
Right. It has to be this summer. It has to go. Yeah, and really in the next month.
You waited too long on the Sacramento pick.
Sure.
They did, clearly. Like, now it's 14 when could have been top 5.
Right.
And
well, it is what it is. At least it didn't go to Philly. That would have really been
exactly.
bad.
And I'm not saying it could have been top 5 like you would have, but the unknown of it could have been top 5 when you traded it. Like, somebody could have traded for it thinking it was a top 5 pick.
The biggest thing out of this lottery to me is, I don't want to say rigged because everybody wants to say rigged, but it is very interesting that the team that had the biggest story off the court of the entire season just happened to get the number 1 pick despite having incredibly long odds.
I mean, there was serious deja vu involved in New Orleans getting another number 1 pick after a gigantically failed trade with the Lakers.
Incredible deja vu.
It happened twice now.
And it happened, the first time it happened, they got Anthony Davis, the biggest prospect since LeBron. The second time it happened, they get Zion Williamson, the biggest prospect
you want an even better
since
one?
LeBron.
You want an even better one? In an Olympic year, when Anthony Davis made the Olympic team, and Zion's probably going to be on the Olympic team. Like, it's just serious deja vu.
And they have a legitimate opportunity to trade Anthony Davis to the New York Knicks to pair the Duke tandem of Zion Williamson and RJ Barrett with Drew Holiday and
they could trade Drew Holiday too.
Julius Randle. They could trade Drew Holiday.
They could trade Drew Holiday. They could sign Terry Rozier. They could do a lot of things.
Listen, don't do that. New Orleans, if there's any advice that I can offer you.
Gentry's a good coach for Terry Rozier.
If there's any, no, I do think Terry Rozier as a starter still has some value, but boy, oh boy, he sounded.
Alfred Payton if it doesn't.
Did you hear that First Take interview?
I've seen the clip.
Boy,
I've seen the clip.
Oh, my goodness.
I saw him on Get Up that day. He was just as bad on Get Up. That one's not even getting circulated because no one watches Get Up.
Nobody wants to talk about it, but if anybody needed any idea of where all of the Celtics locker room problems stemmed from, just go ahead and watch that Terry Rozier interview on First Take.
I can't, I don't want to severely hate him because I get, the idea of if you took a team to the conference finals and you felt like you were a starter and you could have had a bigger role and they just basically said, we're giving the starters to Kyrie and Gordon gets to run the bench unit and you get in where you fit in, and they gave special preference to 2 guys who weren't there for the playoff run, I get that would weigh on you a little bit. Not enough to go on First Take and thrash the organization when you're trying to get an offer from somebody else.
The coach, the general manager,
the coaches, the coaching
players.
staff. He didn't just put it on Stevens. He was like, I don't like you, Jay Larranaga.
He put it out on name. Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving. I don't like those guys.
If there's not a change, I might have to dip. Ooh.
He literally, if they bring this roster back, I'm out. Like, come on, bro. What are you doing? If I needed any other
Youngstown,
evidence,
Ohio.
If I needed any other evidence that this man was a complete cancer in that locker room, I got it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I got it. So New Orleans, don't.
But he also might have been severely undervalued in that rotation this year. Like, had he gotten a bigger role, he might have been better.
He had the second most touches on the team.
But forced touches, right? He's trying to get the ball. He's trying to shoot the ball. Like, he was trying to do things because they weren't giving him opportunity.
He had
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
He had more than one 0 for 10 game. Like, his numbers didn't even.
He's streaky, you know. Everybody has.
Boy, oh boy.
Klay Thompson had more than one 0 for 10 game, you know.
Streaky.
I'm trying to play devil's advocate for Terry.
Damn,
I don't have a lot to go off.
Streaky. He was on a bad streak for an entire season. Boy, oh boy, he's streaky.
Probably should have traded him at the deadline. Who knows?
I don't think they could. That was one of the other arguments where someone was like, well, this is all on Danny Ainge because he didn't trade Terry over the summer. I'm like, listen, when Terry decided not to take an extension, Danny didn't have a whole lot of choice.
It's
I
don't know if I'd go on and trash the team that can match on any offer. Like, you're not a real free agent, Terry.
I highly doubt that they're going to match on any offer.
You might just to keep him if you keep him till December. Like, let's say there's the only thing he gets is 4 for 54.
We got to change the subject.
Okay.
If we talk about this any further, I'm going to kill myself.
Fair enough. Shout out D-Rose.
I don't really mean I'm going to kill myself. It's an expression. You've never been to Chicago?
Seriously. Speaking of which, I don't want to spend more than 20 seconds on this, but are the Bulls going to re-sign D-Rose?
Hope not. That's all I got for you. I think we're at a point where Derrick Rose maybe doesn't need to be an NBA player anymore.
He's great. He was great this year. Like, had he been healthy the rest of the year, he could have been a six-man candidate.
Sure.
I don't want him to leave Minnesota at all.
Off-court stuff, I'll never get past some of that off-court stuff.
There's a lot of stuff with D-Rose. There's a lot of stuff with D-Rose. But he had a great bounce-back year, basketball-wise.
How do we feel about the lottery overall?
I mean, it evens it, but it also, that means trade deadline's not as interesting. It was, they said more people, 80% increase on watching the lottery? I mean, it was a made-for-TV event. It was great.
They need to televise the actual selection.
It was, I get that, it's a lot of numbers and it's not really interesting, and they're just there's so many number combinations and it takes a long time for them to figure out. And whatever, I get it. But it made that way more interesting. It makes the deadline not quite as interesting now because the first round picks won't be thrown around quite as much. But man, that was, you got eyeballs on a non-basketball game for a basketball event in June or in May. That it was a slam dunk for the league.
Probably helped that it was butted right up against a playoff game.
Well, they do that every time.
Right.
But it definitely helped that it was Zion.
Oh, absolutely. And he was there, and Rachel Nichols was calling him out constantly.
How about Kuz? Kuz having to sit there and, the second they get the pick, be like, wow, they got the fourth pick. They could probably trade that and Kyle Kuzma. And he's sitting right there.
I know. But I love that, too, because as soon as, it passed 11, and they're like, whoa, so the Lakers move up.
Plane flight attendant.
So I guess that purple jacket worked, and Kuz is all smiles, and then as soon as 4 comes up, they're like, wow, Kuzma could be on the table. There's no way he's all smiles anymore.
Oh, God, that would suck so bad in that moment. You're just like, yep, that means I'm getting traded.
All right, well, we're on the topic. So to lead off our brief summer conjecture, summer speculation, the Lakers have 3 targets: Bradley Beal, Kyle Lowry, and Derek Favors.
One thing we can almost guarantee is that they're not going to get all 3 of those guys.
I can promise you they're not going to get all 3.
The thing about summer targets is a lot of teams miss the target. The target is not always that easy to hit.
I love Bradley Beal to the Lakers. I think it's great.
I don't want to knock that move. I think it's a lot more complicated than it seems on its face.
Sure.
Washington is reportedly out to Tim Connelly for that GM job. He could be executive of the year this year, though I think John Horst has it locked up. He's a great executive. He's not going to give Bradley Beal away for nothing because he's got $176 million of John Wall for the next 4 years. He can't give away Bradley Beal for nothing. He's got to slam dunk this.
And even though Bradley Beal is $60 million over the next 2 years...
That's worth it for Bradley Beal.
Really,
for 25 and 26-year-old Bradley Beal.
It is worth it. The fear to me for going out and getting him is you might have to give up almost what you would have to get up to get Anthony Davis.
Yeah, because they will force you to. And the market for Bradley Beal is going to be strong. If he's on the market, teams will circle.
Oh, absolutely.
A ton of teams. The Detroit Pistons.
He's very good and very undervalued still in this league. It was Sam Decker on a podcast I was listening to. I don't want to give it any free advertising.
I forgot
anymore.
He was a wizard.
Yeah, but he was like, Brad Beal... they were asking him what are the guys that are just good that nobody talks about, and he was like Bradley Beal, and he's like, I didn't know how good Bradley Beal was until I was playing on the Wizards, and when I was watching him every night, that guy's good.
He was top 5 in the league in scoring.
Yeah, dude, nobody talks about him, but he's so good.
Very good. He didn't really get to show it until Wall was out. Then oh my God, this dude can really play. 1, you're playing in DC, and 2,
you're playing behind John Wall, so it's like.
And really, he's a starter, but he really is playing behind him. It's John Wall being like, no, I'm John Wall. I'm the number 1 overall pick. I could have left out of high school. They wrote a song about me in college.
Bradley Beal's playing some of the most inspired basketball of anyone in the league. The only things that came out about Bradley Beal this year are an amazing gif. That's it. Like other than
awesome gif.
It's a great gif. Other than that gif, nothing really came out about Bradley Beal. The Wizards were more about John Wall's injury setback. What was he doing? Falling over at his house.
Well, there was an injury first of like a bone spurs or something in the ankle, and then all of a sudden he tore his Achilles slipping and falling at his house.
That was more Wizards story than anything Brad Beal did all year, which is understandable because they weren't a playoff team.
The picture of John Wall at the USA camp looking like he was stoned and just ate like 10 Whataburgers.
Right, and they posted that on Twitter, and they were like, "This is," and everybody just killed him.
And even in training camp, there were questions about like, "Hey, John, you're partying an awful lot," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm rich. Like, I'm gonna go out. What do you want me to do? Sit at home?"
That extension.
That's the real quote. What do you want me to do? Sit at home? Kind of.
Yeah,
it works for Durant.
We would certainly prefer that. You and James Harden doing Molly and hitting up the strip
house.
club.
Like, yeah, I feel like you could just chill at home.
That's my biggest advice, I think, to any NBA organization this summer is don't fall victim to the John Wall contract.
Oh God, like
it's terrible.
No, I mean, no, 5 for 190 is not the same, but that's the thing the Celtics have to look at is like Kyrie has injury history, Kyrie has this, Kyrie has that. You have to do it. Like, I'm not saying don't do it, but it's, you waited so long. You didn't trade the assets for Paul George or Jimmy Butler, and you're not mad about the Jimmy Butler one. The Paul George one you might regret a little bit, but now you've got to move the assets and you got to keep Kyrie. You can't wait anymore. That Memphis pick we already said is as valuable as it's going to be. You waited too long on the Sacramento, but you can't wait on the assets anymore. You got to move them, and you got to sign Kyrie. So it's like a gamble of, do we let Kyrie walk and pivot with some cap space? Like, we can move around, and hey, Mike Conley's out there. Could we move somebody and bring in Mike Conley? Could we go get a Kyle Lowry for 1 year?
Could you move up in the draft and get Kobe White?
You have 3 first-round picks. What is it, 14, 20, and 22?
That's the issue is if they move up in the draft for Kobe White, I think you have to give up so many picks that you essentially take yourself out of Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I mean, you got, 14, 20, and 22. Who are the teams you could move up with?
Plus next year's 6. If you want to, I mean, you could theoretically get Kobe White at 14, but if you really want to get him,
it'd be a steal at 14.
Sure,
I don't know if he'll be there.
You'd probably have to move up to 6 and steal him from Phoenix.
So who in the top 5 is moving for somebody on the Celtics or those picks? Because you got, so New Orleans isn't going to trade it. Memphis is going to trade it. I'm
saying you could trade it with Phoenix, which
Phoenix at 6
wouldn't shock me if they did something that stupid. I've seen dumber things out of Phoenix.
I think Phoenix. I heard Zach Lowe today on his podcast say that Phoenix is not out of the realm of possibility for Chris Paul. That's insane.
Jesus Christ.
Like, that's not just to get him to take the contract. They would basically be giving up like a first-round pick in Chris Paul for nothing so that Houston could go chase a different free agent, which I don't think that's going to happen. That's insane on its face. But the fact that a guy who's that plugged into the NBA said that it's not out of the realm of possibility is at least noteworthy.
The podcast they referred to early in their show that I did not name had another spectacular interview from one Matt Barnes.
It was outstanding.
And my favorite quote that I would like to directly apply to what you just told me was when he turned around, Matt Barnes did, and said directly to Robert Sarver, "Fuck you, I will fuck you up."
On everything I love.
I would like to directly,
that's as good as it gets.
I would like to directly apply that Matt Barnes quote to Robert Sarver to this Chris Paul situation.
Looked at the young woman sitting next to Robert Sarver and said, "You better get your boy. I'm gonna fuck him up."
Which, by the way, is exactly what Russ should have said to the girl in Utah instead of "you and your wife." Matt Barnes turning to Robert Sarver because what was it? Robert Sarver said, "Don't talk to the fucking fans."
Yeah,
and then
Matt Barnes was talking to an 8-year-old kid or something.
Matt Barnes turned around and said, "I will fuck you up on everything I own." he said he said to his girl, he said, "Keep an eye on your man because I will fuck him up."
Fuck him up. Love it. And Robert Sarver sat there like a quiet little schoolboy.
And then at the end of the podcast, they said, "Listen, so we know how you feel about Robert Sarver." And he said, "Listen, it's fuck Robert Sarver." And Robert Sarver knows it's fuck Robert Sarver.
Absolutely it is.
That was terrific. And that's exactly what I would like to say regarding, that's my official take on the Phoenix Suns going to get Chris Paul.
Do you think Kyrie gives Phoenix a meeting?
No.
Not even James Jones? Like, they got Booker, they've got all, like, not even a meeting? I think he might give him a meeting. James Jones.
I don't think he's giving him a meeting.
Okay.
I don't think Kyrie has the attachment to James Jones that LeBron has to James Jones.
I just think Kyrie is so unpredictable that he could look at Phoenix and be like, oh, these guys will listen to me.
I actually think Kyrie's very predictable, and he's just going to stay in Boston.
Is that predictable?
No, not at this point.
I don't know what
it's
to say
what
about
I've been
Kyrie.
predicting all year, so for me, it's predictable.
For sure. I can't, I just think of a guy who went to 3 straight finals and was on a team that was set up, to
And
be
wanted
his.
out.
Even if LeBron was going to leave, he was going to give it to Kyrie. And, he just
Yeah,
wanted
but
to leave. He was
wouldn't-
just like, yeah, I'm out.
It wouldn't have been the same if he gave it to Kyrie, because the problem with LeBron teams when LeBron leaves is that LeBron is very meticulous when he's there in building the team exactly the way he wants it. And when he leaves, it will never fit for whoever the
Unless you bring in
leftover
Giannis.
superstar is.
That's player X.
The Heat with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade didn't work
an
without
unfortunate
LeBron.
situation
Right,
yeah.
but even when he was healthy, it
Sure.
wasn't working. And the Cavs, I know Kevin Love didn't play a lot, but even if he did, the Cavs aren't built for Kevin Love to carry them.
And you know what? You look at the Heat, and they had an executive like Pat Riley who turned it around. What were they, 3rd or 4th seed in 2016? They missed the playoffs the
Right.
first year without Brown, but then they turned it around. No Chris Bosh. They bring Dwayne Wade back, and everything's at least they figured it out, pieced it together. Cleveland doesn't have any chance at that. They're
they
not
do if
making
they
the
do
playoffs
things right,
for-
but it's going to take a while.
And even in the East, where 6, 7, and 8 is going to be wide open every year, there's really only 5 good teams, maybe 6 every year. I still don't think Cleveland's getting back into the playoffs for a few years. It would be shocking to me if they made the play, unless some
That's where
drastic change happens.
I don't really blame Kyrie for leaving because I think he saw the writing on the wall.
Oh,
I
with
think
Kyrie, I think they're a playoff team. If they so they still
weren't-
have JR. They
they
would have
weren't
still
a-
had George Hill. They would have still had all these guys. They wouldn't have traded them all away. Corver, all these names. With that team is, and the Celtics with a hurt Isaiah and Crowder and all those. That team's better than the Celtics.
I guess. I mean, in theory, we'll never know.
Yeah, no, of course not.
But if Love keeps getting hurt, if JR keeps throwing soup at people,
JR
there's
didn't play all year, not because he was hurt.
no, he just didn't want to
Just
play.
yep, I'm out.
He
Not playing for this team.
he
They
didn't
fired
want to.
Ty Lue, and he was like, "Yeah, no."
And then the
no.
Lakers, if when JR was like, "I'm out," I thought the Lakers at some point would go, "Why not? Let's go get him." And
Why not? How about we need him?
Right.
They should have gone to get him 1,000,000 times over.
I wonder if LeBron was in Magic's office, dog.
Yo, I know he's JR, but you signed Michael Beasley. What's the stat here? What are we doing?
We gotta go get this guy.
I'm passing it to KCP. Alex Caruso's taking 3 threes a game. Where's JR?
Which it's funny, and people will be like, "Well, LeBron didn't like JR," as you could see from the game one. No. LeBron walked JR Smith's contract into Dan Gilbert's office.
I'm not signing until you do this.
This
And
JR
Tristan
Smith,
Thompson, who's also a free agent.
JR Smith, and Tristan Thompson were critical parts of LeBron returning to Cleveland for year 3.
Without a doubt.
No, but beyond that, I think Kyrie's an interesting point to talk about this summer because he's been the biggest story of this summer, which is really odd because Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard are both free agents, and yet everybody wants to talk about
Kyrie's the swing piece, though, because of what it ties in with AD, right? And also, something nobody's really talked about. If Kyrie does leave Boston, Boston has money. They don't have to go get AD. They could sign Kemba. They could sign another point guard. They could make a trade for Lowry or Conley. They could pivot. They don't have to, go get AD and rebuild. They could just pivot.
That is a lot of. If Kyrie leaves, then they just have to rebuild, and it's they really don't necessarily have to rebuild. They can re-sign Kyrie because they have $190 million available to them. If Kyrie decides not to re-sign here, that gives them $160 million to give to someone else.
Exactly.
So, they could get in the market for Klay Thompson. They could get in the market for Draymond Green. They could get
Draymond's not a free agent, but
right,
yeah.
but there's all these different options where they could just start looking and going Golden State. If Golden State gets an offer, a Godfather offer for Draymond Green, they will entertain it. Because if it comes down to are we going to keep Klay or Draymond, and they have a Godfather offer for Draymond, and they can give Klay just the regular 160.
I think it's much more likely you get a Godfather offer for Klay.
I agree, but
Draymond is such a niche market. He has to fit perfectly. It has to be a team like the Lakers, that wants to win, needs the guy who's unselfish and makes everybody better, and to play like this.
And it probably wouldn't work with him and Al Horford. But I'm just saying, like, the thing about the Celtics is even if they don't get Kyrie back, there are so many options. I just happen to think they're getting Kyrie back.
I think so. I think there's sleeper teams out there who are going to make big moves this summer that are just like, they have, like, think of Miami, a team that has an executive as skilled and as seasoned as Pat Riley, that Pat Riley's not going to stay in mediocrity. And he's not going to get worse because he doesn't have his first-round pick in 2 years. So he's not going to try to tank. He's not going to stay in mediocrity. He's going to try to do something, whether it's Blake Griffin, whether it's whoever. The Heat are going to try to do something. Phoenix is going to try to do something. A lot of teams, like, let's say Kemba's gone from Charlotte. We've talked about Charlotte. Okay, bring us your dead cap. Like, that's a lot of room for other teams to do stuff now.
Sure.
Now that you got another, like, I don't know, scapegoat in Charlotte to just dump your salary in.
The new Atlanta.
There's a million. Sacramento might look to add a star. Like, there's a lot of teams out there who are
It's
like,
going to be tough for them.
It would be tough, but they're, theoretically one good star away.
It's one of the better basketball situations, but
And I didn't even say the Clippers.
In the Clippers, I think that's, like, we talked a little bit before we started recording about how the speculation around Kyrie has been so wild and nobody really knows what the hell he's going to do, but everybody wants to talk about it. Like, Bleacher Report says he's going to the Nets. Buescher says he's going to the Knicks. Stephen A. Smith says he's going to the Knicks. You've got Windhorst says he's 100% to the Lakers. You've got Jackie Mack and Danny Ainge saying that he's coming back to Boston.
Who knows?
And nobody knows anything, but everybody wants to talk about it. With Kawhi, nobody knows anything, but nobody's interested in talking about it. And with Kevin Durant, everybody just assumes that they know exactly what he's going to do.
Yeah, I mean, the Durant one seems like an open and shut case. If he's going to leave, it's only for the Knicks.
I think Kawhi is also as open and shut, and I think that's part of why no one wants to talk about it. Yeah.
I think, I mentioned the Heat as a team with an impatient executive who's mediocre. If you are the number one seed last year in the Western Conference, and this year you're the 4 seed, and you got worse, do you consider that a mediocre year? If you lost in 6 games in the conference semifinals?
If you're Daryl Morey?
Because Daryl Morey's not patient. And you know who's especially not patient? Les Alexander. Or Tillman Fertitta now, excuse me. It's not Les Alexander anymore.
Boy, I don't want to talk about Tillman Fertitta.
Like, it is very quickly like okay, that I heard Woj say this at the lottery, or at the Combine this week. The big talk is, how does Houston get better this summer? Like, I don't know what it is.
Who do they move? Paul?
Like, that's the big one, right? Like, that's the one that, like, but do you get better or do you get different if you get rid of Chris Paul?
Different,
like,
mostly.
What's the deal for Chris Paul?
I think a little better because I don't...
Who do you bring in? Tobias Harris?
Maybe because he fits their approach better. Like, I think right now at Chris Paul's age, he isn't exactly what they want to do. He's not the elite finisher he used to be. He's never been a great three-point shooter. Those are the two things that Daryl Morey wants. There was another anecdote of Daryl Morey saying they nearly had a perfect game because they looked at the shot chart after the game and everything was a layup and everything was a three-point shot. And then there was Nene with one mid-range shot. And that was why we didn't have a perfect game. But Chris Paul has always lived kind of in that territory.
Chris Paul exists outside of analytics, and he's on a team almost entirely based on analytics.
Exactly, and that's where I never understood it in the first place. When they committed the 4-year max to him, I didn't understand it. I'm like, he doesn't fit what Daryl Morey wants to do.
No.
Tobias Harris fits exactly what Daryl Morey wants to do.
If you're Houston, how are you selling Tobias Harris? Are you trying to sell Jimmy Butler on coming home? Like,
I think Jimmy Butler...
Houston kid?
With Jimmy Butler, I think he stays in Philly.
I would. If they give me the max, I would stay.
I think he either stays in Philly or he goes to the Lakers.
He seems to have some kind of good relationship with Embiid. It seems to have fostered better than any relationship he's had with any of the other young stars he's played with.
The problem with Tobias Harris is he's already, whether it's fair or not.
They're not.
No.
I'm
saying for Houston.
Okay.
Whether it's fair or not, he's already getting mellow comps. And not in a good way.
No, he's not Melo. Not the scorer Melo was.
Sure, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, he's getting the similar body type, similar style, maybe not the same player.
Is he a 4 or is he a 3?
Right, but he's getting those comps and not in a good way. So it's like, if I'm Tobias Harris, do I want to go where Melo died? Or
people forget he was even there. It's like,
do I want to go someplace else?
I mean, if I'm Tobias Harris, I'm probably not going to Houston. Like, regardless of whether or not they talk about D'Antoni saying he wants to. Yeah, like, it's just not a great. I'm trying to look at
Because I think there's also like this current among players where they don't love analytics. No. Front offices love analytics. Some players will buy into it. Harden, I think, is head over heels for this shit.
I mean, what choice does he have?
He's completely eliminated the mid-range, but it's like CJ McCollum. You're not getting CJ McCollum to buy into these analytics.
No, never.
Damian Lillard, maybe. Steph Curry, definitely. Klay Thompson, definitely. But there are guys where it's like Chris Paul's never going to buy into this.
But there's other like middling free agents Houston could go after. Like I'm Bogdanovich. I've said it like a bunch of how great did he play towards the end of this year? That's a guy who could help them at the 3. Like there's certain things like if I'm Indiana, I'm not letting him go. No way. Not after you're losing Depot and Tyreek Evans, which whatever.
We won't talk about that. I don't want to extrapolate on that at all.
But either way, there's other guys like a Bogdanovich, like a whoever else that you can go get to try to piece around it. But again, how are you pulling those guys away and selling them on Houston right now?
It's tough.
Like it's just I don't like Bojan Bogdanovic. Excuse me, I'm going to mix that up a million more times. But like how he's got a pretty good situation in Indiana. I don't think you're going to be able to pull him away. There's other guys out there like Harrison Barnes might opt out. He's a good guy you could maybe throw us, but like if he's going to opt out, he's opting out of $25 million. So you're going to have to spend to get him.
Unless he's opting out for a pay cut to go back to, I don't know, Golden State.
But he's in Sacramento. Like, they've got a chance.
If Kevin Durant leaves and Harrison Barnes has the opportunity to opt out and go back.
For less? Oh, I mean, yeah. That's the thing, too, that we don't talk about KD leaving. And like
it gives them a lot of options,
They've got options. Like, they could easily re-sign Boogie. And if it looks more and more with every passing day that he doesn't play like he will re-sign there. I mentioned Brook Lopez.
If KD leaves, it's not like they can just go get any max player that they want because they have to they have to pay Clay.
Right, but they can like the guys they've been able to get. Like they got Jonas Jerebko on the taxpayers veteran minimum. That's way less than the veteran minimum. Like they're just convincing guys to come. They can actually go give somebody $6 million, like a Trevor Ariza. They could go get somebody they actually want.
What about like a doomsday scenario? I haven't even thought about yet. Clay and Kevin Durant both leave.
I don't see it. If Durant leaves, you can immediately throw the max at Clay, and Clay said if he gets the max, he's not going.
Right, but it's just out there wildly.
Yeah, sure. Hypothetically.
Then they really have options.
Then you can go after whoever you want. Like, really, you can go after whoever you want. Want to come play with Steph and Draymond?
Hey.
Want to live in San Francisco?
Hey, Kawhi.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's out, like, again, I don't think it happens that Clay and Durant both leave, but if it did, like Kawhi Leonard's certainly an option. I don't know if you're going to sell him on San Francisco if he wants to be down south in Southern Cal, but there's other guys too. Middleton, like there are certainly guys you can go after.
I think if there's a non-super, like outside of Tobias, outside of Jimmy Butler, which is maybe not right to put Tobias in this category, but outside of like Butler, Kyrie, Kevin Durant, Kawhi, those guys, I think Chris Middleton's the one that can really like wreck the card, so to speak, for this free agency.
He could be like that. Like I said months ago, like if New York doesn't get their 2 guys, do they panic and go after a Middleton or a Harris, or do they sit pat and say we'll make a trade for somebody, or we'll just keep this cap space and roll it over till next year? Like a lot of that depends on, do I want to give Chris Middleton 4 for $140? Because like, do you? Like, that's a lot of money. Like, I know Chris Middleton's good, but 4 for $140 good?
Right.
That's a lot of money to pay Chris Middleton. Like,
it's tough.
It depends on.
It's going to be an interesting summer.
How much Milwaukee wants to throw at him, and who's going to give him more, and does he love Milwaukee enough to stay there? And
I don't know if Milwaukee's going to throw that at him.
Are they going to throw that at him? And
because they also have to figure out Malcolm Brogdon.
Malcolm Brogdon, and at what point does Chris Middleton say, okay, I'm signing on for 4 years. Giannis, you only have 1 left. What's going to happen?
And that's why...
Then they have to have that conversation.
That's why last week I had that quick take where I said I think Milwaukee's championship window is literally this year. Because I think even if they do get Middleton back, and then they do have to have that Giannis, you only have 1 year left, we saw what that did to Boston. We also
saw what it didn't do to Toronto.
And we also saw what it didn't do to Golden State. But like it did hang over... It did hang over Golden State for quite a bit at the start of the year. I think it was a little different in Toronto because
the guy doesn't talk
ever. Yeah, he's like a complete enigma. Lowry was FaceTiming DeRozan every single day.
From the locker room.
Right. And I think like they run a pretty tight ship up in Toronto, and it's just like
Ujiri's a good executive.
right. And I think they got everybody on board. Look, we're all in. We're gonna win it this year. Let's all go for it.
Sure.
And so it was a little less like everybody was on the same page. With Kyrie, it was a little more interesting because he was like, "Hey, I'm coming back," and then they asked him again, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm coming back." And then they asked him again, and he was like, "Listen, shut the fuck up." And then they asked him again, and he was like, "I don't need to tell you anything. Yeah,
I don't know you should ask me July 1st. Like, and exactly as it should have gone. But like, they have a right GM. Everybody has the right GM to sell the guy, right? Until you don't. Like, it's the same thing with Masai Ujiri's in Toronto. He could sell him there, but he couldn't do it in Denver. How much is market? How much is guy selling? How much is it? There's a million different.
When
factors.
It's Toronto, I think it's tough sell. I think just automatically, it's
without
tough
a doubt,
sell.
it's a tough sell. But do
you remember how pissed Kawhi was when he got traded there?
They brought Masai Ujiri from Denver.
True, but I mean, again, from Denver.
You know what? That's Denver not paying their executives either. Which, you know what? I hope they don't. I hope they don't give Tim Connolly a huge raise to keep him, because that means Chauncey will get that job. And Chauncey's been waiting too long. He should get that job, and it's at home in Denver, and good for him. But
either that
tough
job
to see
or
another executive walk out the door in Denver after winning Executive of the Year.
Either that job or Detroit. I would love to see Chauncey.
Detroit job. He didn't even get an interview. It's ridiculous.
Stupid.
It's stupid. It's laughably ridiculous to not even interview the guy. But it's also laughably ridiculous that your starting point guard wears his retired number every night.
Do you think Tom Gores is even aware that Reggie Jackson is wearing Chauncey Billups' number?
He was at the retirement ceremony. He was there.
The Chauncey family. Do you really? Do we think he's aware that Reggie Jackson's out there in Chauncey's number?
I don't know what Tom Gores is aware of. He just
how long until we can?
At least it's not Gail Benson. At least it's not Gail Benson. How
long until we can firmly put Tom Gores in the Robert Sarver and James Dolan category of owner?
He's close. He's teetering on the edge. He's right there for me. And maybe I'm biased or unbiased, however you want to phrase that, but I'm getting close. He's right. Him and Gail Benson, they're just like, one of them's going to push the other one in first, and then the other one will pull the other one down. Like Gail Benson, who's essentially, I don't know how familiar you are with the movie Major League, but the Rachel Phelps of the NBA.
Yep.
Like, third wife of a 74-year-old billionaire who now owns the team. Like, I don't know, but Tom Gores is pretty bad. It could be worse.
Great.
He's not James Dolan. He's not Gail Benson. He's not Robert Sarver, but he's pretty friggin' bad.
All right, with that.
It's always good to end on Tom Gores slander.
Yeah, I love it. Fuck Tom Gores. Oh, I'm sorry. I just let a Matt Barnes slip out of my mouth.
No. We're not going to smoke a bowl, though, not like they did. Oh, well.
It's illegal in Michigan, though, folks. All right, we'll see you.
Where they did it, though.
We will see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Later.